I used to fall asleep at work. Not occasionally, routinely. I'd sneak out to a Borders Books a few blocks away and sink into one of those big overstuffed chairs in the back at 10:30 in the morning. I was a chronic snorer who'd graduated to something worse, and I had no idea what. When I finally got a sleep study, the doctor told me my case was one of the worst he'd seen. He sent me directly from his office to a medical supply store to get a CPAP machine. I had just turned 40. The reason? I was at meaningful risk for a stroke within 2 years. I'd always lived in my head, so the idea of impaired cognition, of losing a big part of my identity and most likely independence, was something I just wasn't prepared for. That night was the first time in my adult life that I cried. That was the night I realized sleep wasn't a lifestyle preference. It was keeping me alive. Before I get into the products, the boring stuff still matters. No food within 2 hours of bed, move your body, walk after meals. If you're not doing those, none of what follows will work. If you are, here's what actually moves the needle. Affiliate links in the description. I only list what I actually use. Now, the products. Magnesium is involved in somewhere around 300 enzymatic processes in the body, and most people in the Western world are running deficient without knowing it. Magnesium Threonate is a specific form that crosses the blood-brain barrier more effectively than other forms, which matters for sleep because this is where it does its most interesting work. Think of the blood-brain barrier as a security checkpoint between your bloodstream and your brain. Most magnesium supplements get absorbed, but don't make it through. Magnesium Threonate does. That's the entire reason it helps. One serious caveat, supplements are completely unregulated. I personally know someone whose wife ended up with severe liver damage. ALT values over 1600, which is catastrophically high, from a supplement that came from an otherwise reputable retailer. The brand itself, however, wasn't premium. Don't buy the discount parachute. Stick to companies like Life Extension, Thorne, or Pure Encapsulations. They're not cheap. Neither is a hospital visit. If you want to know whether you're actually deficient, ask your doctor for an RBC magnesium test, not the standard serum test. Most people who come back normal on the serum test are still deficient at the cellular level. It's one of the more common blind spots in routine blood work. And you don't need a doctor to order it. You can purchase a standalone RBC magnesium test directly and get your blood drawn at your local Quest Diagnostics. I put a link in the description. I've taken it every night for 10 years. That's not a testimonial. That's a data point. Here's a question nobody asks when they're optimizing sleep. What are you actually breathing while you sleep? Your bedroom is the room you spend the most time in of any room in your house. Roughly a third of your entire life happens in that space. And because the bedrooms are typically less ventilated than the rest of the home, with doors closed and windows shut overnight, they tend to accumulate pollutants at higher concentrations than anywhere else you'll be all day. Research published in Environmental Science and Technology found that bedrooms show significantly higher concentrations of nearly 100 volatile organic compounds during sleep compared to other rooms in the same home, with occupants themselves being a meaningful source through skin and breath emissions. VOCs off-gas from your mattress, your furniture, your cleaning products, and here's the part that gets people: you yourself are one of the largest sources, through your skin and your breath in an enclosed room overnight. A systematic review of bedroom air quality studies found that pollutants including particulate matter, VOCs, formaldehyde, and CO2 frequently exceeded established air quality guidelines during sleep periods. These aren't abstract numbers. Even low levels of airborne irritants can cause coughing, congestion, and frequent awakenings, directly reducing time in deep restorative sleep. There's also the particulate matter issue. A review of 25 high-quality studies found that cutting fine particulate matter average concentrations in half from typical urban street levels down to World Health Organization guidelines could reduce the likelihood of poor sleep by around 10% among middle-aged and older adults. That's a meaningful effect from something most people never think about. The Coway Airmega, known as the Mighty, is the unit I'd recommend for most bedrooms, and it's been a top pick from Wirecutter, a New York Times company, for 10 consecutive years. That's not a minor distinction. The one in my bedroom's still going strong. The Coway Airmega covers rooms up to 361 square feet, the size of a typical bedroom, with a 3-stage filtration system: a washable pre-filter, a deodorization filter, and a true HEPA filter. These capture 99.97% of particles as small as 0.3 microns, including pollen, dust, pet dander, and smoke. What makes it genuinely useful for a sleep environment rather than just a general-purpose purifier is the real-time air quality monitoring. A built-in pollution sensor displays indoor air quality via color-coded LED, and in auto mode, the fan speed adjusts automatically based on what the sensor detects. When no pollution is detected for 30 minutes, it drops into eco mode and the fan stops entirely to save energy. That last part matters for sleep. You're not running a loud fan all night. On its lowest setting, it operates at around 36 decibels, comparable to a quiet library, and consumes just 0.08 kilowatt hours over a 24-hour period, making it one of the most energy-efficient units tested. There is a caveat: an air purifier doesn't address every bedroom air quality issue. It won't significantly reduce CO2 buildup. That needs ventilation, not filtration. And it won't eliminate the source of VO2 off-gassing from furniture or bedding. It just reduces the concentration of what's already airborne. But for particulate matter, allergens, dust, pet dander, and volatile compounds that are already floating in the air, it's one of the highest impact, lowest friction interventions on this entire list. It's about $200. Filters are about $40 a year. You'll spend more than that on supplements in the next couple of months. The difference is this runs every night in the room where you spend a third of your life. The Oura Ring did something no lecture, no article, and no doctor ever managed to do. It made me stop drinking alcohol. Here's why. The Oura Ring is a sleep and activity tracker you wear on your finger. It measures heart rate variability, body temperature, and movement throughout the night, and synthesizes that into readiness and sleep stage data you can read each morning. I'd look at my overnight heart rate data the morning after just 2 beers and see it ran roughly 30% higher than on nights I hadn't drunk anything. That's your body working harder during what's supposed to be its recovery window. Seeing it in a graph night after night was much more persuasive than any lecture. An honest caveat: sleep staging from a finger device is an estimate, not a clinical measurement. The algorithms have improved significantly over the years, but if you're making medical decisions based on this data, talk to a doctor. What it's genuinely useful for is seeing patterns, trends over time, behavioral cause and effect. That's where the value lives. Morpheus is a chest-strapped heart rate system built around 2 metrics: heart rate variability and a daily recovery score. HRV measures the variation in time between your heartbeats. Counterintuitively, more variation is better. It indicates your nervous system is adaptive and not under excessive stress. A low HRV means your body is fighting something, whether that's illness, overtraining, poor sleep, or alcohol. What distinguishes Morpheus from passive wearables like Oura or a Whoop strap is that it takes a deliberate, guided 3-minute morning reading using a chest strap, which is the gold standard for accuracy. Passive background measurement, which most wrist devices use, introduce too many variables. So push hard when you're recovered, back off when you're not. Most of us do the opposite. One practical benefit is worth calling out specifically: Zone 2 training. Zone 2 is a level of moderate aerobic intensity where you can still hold a conversation but are genuinely working. It's become one of the most talked about longevity interventions in exercise science, and for good reason. The problem most people have is knowing when they're actually in it. Too easy and you're not getting the mitochondrial adaptation. Too hard and you've drifted into a different energy system entirely. Morpheus takes the guesswork out of it completely. Your personalized zones are calculated daily based on your recovery, displayed in real time during your workout. It's the high end of low exertion. It's called out by the band of your daily Zone 2 range. Stay there and you're doing the work. You're building your base. You're burning the fat. The creator, conditioning coach Joel Jamieson, has worked with Olympic athletes and Navy SEALs. The system costs $97 with no subscription. That's a genuinely reasonable price for what it does. My use case: I track whether my sleep interventions are actually working, not just feeling like they're working. There's a difference. I first heard about PEMF mats after watching a video about Dana White's recovery approach. If you don't know Dana White, he runs the UFC. It's one of the fastest growing sports organizations on the planet. The guy plays million-dollar hand blackjack and is obviously not resource constrained. His recovery setup looks like something NASA cobbled together on a generous budget. I figured I'd give it a try, albeit at the entry level rather than the Lambo level. The Bon Charge Mini runs $349, and their product line moves up from there in tiers. Dana White's setup probably runs closer to $30,000. The underlying technology, however, is the same. PEMF is where the wellness industry gets slippery, so let me tell you exactly what the evidence does and doesn't support. PEMF stands for Pulse Electromagnetic Field. The device emits low-frequency electromagnetic pulses at settings that correspond to different brainwave states. Delta waves at 1 to 3 Hz for promoting deep sleep. Theta at 8 Hz mimics Earth's natural electromagnetic pulse at around 8 cycles per second. Alpha for calm focus, beta for alertness. The Bon Charge Mini also combines red light and near-infrared light and heats via far infrared through semi-precious gemstones embedded in the mat. PEMF actually has been used in clinical medicine for decades. The FDA first cleared a PEMF device back in 1979 for non-healing bone fractures. So this isn't pure wellness fantasy. The question is whether consumer-grade devices operating at lower field strengths deliver meaningful effects. And that's where the evidence gets thinner. There's decent research in pain management and bone healing, considerably less rigorous data on sleep specifically. Red light therapy has strong evidence for cellular recovery. The gemstone component, semi-precious stones embedded in the mat, has no peer-reviewed support that I'm aware of. I'm not paying for the rocks, I'm paying for the PEMF and the infrared. What I can tell you is this. When I use the low-frequency PEMF setting before bed, my HRV scores the following morning are measurably higher. I'm tracking this against a baseline. That's not proof of mechanism, but it's not nothing either. If you're not already sleeping reasonably well, I wouldn't start here. If you've tried the fundamentals and you're still looking for an edge, it's worth investigating. Just go in with calibrated expectations. Light is the most powerful signal your body has for regulating its sleep-wake cycle. Specifically, blue wavelength light, which is abundant in screens and LED lighting, suppresses melatonin production by telling your brain it's midday. Do that for 2 hours before bed, and you're working against your own biology. But the blue light problem isn't just a nighttime problem. It starts the moment you sit at your desk in the morning and doesn't stop until you close your eyes. That means the solution isn't one pair of glasses, it's two. One for the hours you're trying to stay sharp, one for the hours you're trying to wind down. Most people own neither. Gunnar Optics has been in the blue light blocking space longer than almost anyone. The company was established in 2006 with a specific audience in mind. Competitive gamers and software developers who spent 8, 10, 12 hours a day in front of screens and were paying for it in eye strain, headaches, and disrupted sleep. Serious gamers are not forgiving customers. If the product didn't deliver, the internet would know about it within 48 hours. That's the review that matters. Here's what most blue light blocking glasses don't tell you. How much blue light they're actually blocking. Gunnar does. They developed a proprietary rating system called the GBLF, Gunnar Blue Light Filter, measuring the exact percentage blocked at 450 nanometers, the peak of the blue light spectrum. Clear lenses, 35%. Amber, their most popular option, it's the one I use, 65%. Amber Max, 98%, recommended for sleep improvement, migraine management, and post-concussion treatment. Most lenses also include a slight magnification, what Gunnar calls focusing power, which allows the eye muscles to relax during extended digital screen time. Most blue light glasses filter light and stop there. They handle the phone problem. They do nothing for the 8 hours of focused screen work that strains your eye muscles independently of blue light. Gunnar addresses both. Gunnar gets you through the day. Raw Optics handles what happens after. Their red lenses are their serious evening option. They block 100% of blue light and go further, filtering out green wavelengths as well. Green light, it turns out, also suppresses melatonin, just less aggressively than blue. If you want the most complete signal to your brain that the day is over, the red lenses are the more powerful tool. Your phone isn't even the biggest culprit. A 2026 study published in Scientific Reports, a journal of Nature, one of the most respected scientific publications in the world, found that cool white LED bulbs, the kind now in most homes, produce melatonin suppression roughly 8 times higher than traditional incandescent bulbs. Your living room lights may be doing more damage to your sleep than your screen. The same study also looked at blue light blocking glasses and found that most of the ones sold in pharmacies and eye doctor offices did almost nothing useful for sleep. The reason is they block the wrong wavelengths. The wavelength that most powerfully tells your brain to stop making melatonin sits around 480 nanometers. Think of it as a very specific shade of blue-green. Most cheap blue light glasses don't filter that range at all. Raw Optics Sunset lenses are specifically engineered to address this. According to their website, the Sunset lenses exhibit a complete cutoff around 500 nanometers with less than 5% transmission until approximately 550 nanometers, targeting the peak sensitivity of the melanopsin absorption spectrum near 479 nanometers. In plain English, they block exactly the wavelengths the science say matter most for sleep, not the wavelengths that happen to be easiest to market. I wear them every evening. They look like something a welder would wear to a dinner party. They work. The science here is genuinely good. Multiple well-designed studies show that blue light in the evening delays melatonin onset and reduces sleep quality. This is one of the lowest cost, highest evidence categories on the entire list. 2 pairs of glasses worn at different times of the day, covering different hours of the same biological problem, start here after magnesium and the air purifier. Everything we've talked about so far has been about protecting your sleep, blocking blue light in the evening, reducing inflammation, tracking your recovery. This one works in the other direction. It's about what you do in the morning to set yourself up for better sleep that night. The logic is straightforward, but underappreciated. The quality of your sleep tonight is substantially determined by how much bright light you got this morning. Your circadian system, the internal clock that governs when you feel alert, when you feel sleepy, and when melatonin rises, is calibrated primarily by light. Specifically, it's looking for a clear, high-intensity light signal in the first hour or two after waking to lock in your body clock for the day. Clinical research supports broad-spectrum bright light of 2,000 to 10,000 lux in the early morning as the most effective approach for advancing and stabilizing circadian rhythms. Most people go from a dark bedroom to an artificially lit office and never get that signal. Indoor office and home office lighting typically runs between 200 and 500 lux, a fraction of what a cloudy day outside delivers, let alone full sun. Your brain essentially wakes up uncertain what time of day it is, and your circadian rhythm drifts accordingly. The downstream effect? You feel groggy in the morning, wired at night, and your sleep quality suffers even if your sleep hygiene is otherwise solid. This is the problem Circadian Optics was built to solve. Founded in Minneapolis in 2016 by Amber Leong, a Malaysian immigrant who noticed that Minnesota winters were quietly wrecking her health and energy. The company makes a line of light therapy lamps that deliver 10,000 lux of full-spectrum, UV-free LED light at the color temperature of midday sun around 5,500 Kelvin. The concept is simple. Put it on your desk while you have your morning coffee and give your brain the light signal it evolved to receive. The lamps are backed by nearly a decade of research, testing, and development. And their founder's pitch was so compelling on Shark Tank Season 11 that Kevin O'Leary called it one of the best presentations he'd ever seen on the show. Their product line covers multiple form factors, compact travel lamps, larger desk panels, Art Deco designs that double as statement pieces, at price points ranging from roughly $45 to $70. Circadian Optics recommends placing their lamps within your field of view while you work or relax in the morning for 15 to 60 minutes daily without staring directly into the light. The science behind morning bright light therapy is among the most well-established in sleep medicine. Stanford Healthcare's sleep medicine program uses bright light therapy as a clinical treatment for delayed sleep phase syndrome, recommending full-spectrum light at 10,000 lux beginning as soon as possible after waking for 30 to 90 minutes. Delayed sleep phase syndrome is what happens when your internal clock is stuck running late. You can't fall asleep until almost 2 or 3 in the morning, when waking up at a normal hour feels almost impossible, even if you do get a full night's sleep. It's not insomnia, and it's not laziness. Morning bright light is one of the most effective tools for nudging that clock earlier because light is the primary reset signal your circadian system responds to. The mechanism is direct. Bright light hits the melanopsin-containing cells in your retina, which signal the master circadian clock in the hypothalamus to lock in the timing of your alertness and melatonin cycles for the next 24 hours. Get that signal early and clearly, and everything downstream, energy, focus, and nighttime melatonin production tends to follow. One honest note on the 10,000 lux marketing claim, that number is typically measured at 5 to 6 inches from the device, which isn't how anyone sits with a desk lamp. The effective lux at normal working distance is lower. That said, the clinical literature suggests meaningful circadian benefits at intensities well below 10,000 lux. The threshold is lower than the marketing implies, and consistent daily use matters more than the precise number. Of all the products on this list, This one has the strongest ratio of evidence to price. The clinical case for morning bright light and circadian health is decades deep, the lamps are affordable, and the habit is easy to build. You just put it next to wherever you eat breakfast or drink your morning coffee. You don't need a separate routine, you just need to stop starting your day in the dark. Compression boots inflate and deflate sequentially up the legs, mimicking the lymphatic pumping action your body performs during movement. Before getting into what they do, it's worth explaining what the lymphatic system actually is, because most people have heard of it without really knowing what it does. Think of your lymphatic system as your body's secondary circulatory network and waste disposal crew. While your blood vessels carry oxygen and nutrients to your cells, your lymphatic vessels collect the metabolic byproducts, dead cells, excess fluid, pathogens, inflammation markers, and transport them to lymph nodes where they're filtered and eventually eliminated. Unlike your cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system has no pump, no heart driving it. It moves in almost entirely through muscular contraction and physical movement, which is one of the reasons why sedentary people tend to feel sluggish and puffy. Their lymph is literally stagnating. This is where compression boots earn their keep. The sequential inflation pattern, starting at the feet and working up the legs, mechanically mimics the muscular contractions that would normally drive lymphatic flow. It pushes fluid up and out of the lower extremities, reduces inflammation, and improves circulation in a way that passive rest simply can't replicate. After a long day on your feet, a hard training session, or even extended air travel, that drainage effect is real and noticeable. The sleep connection is indirect but plausible. A body that's cleared metabolic waste more efficiently and reduced peripheral inflammation is better positioned to shift into genuine recovery during sleep. Whether that translates to meaningfully better sleep metrics for someone who isn't training hard is less clear, and I'd be overstating the evidence to claim otherwise. They're not cheap. Normatec runs $800 and up. Professional and Division I sports teams use them. The Sharper Image and other versions are much more accessible. I'd call this a nice to have rather than a need to have, and lower on the priority list than everything above it. Red light at 630 to 660 nanometers has genuine clinical evidence behind it for skin repair, collagen stimulation, and cellular recovery. The Omnilux is an FDA-cleared medical-grade device. That distinction matters because it means it's been evaluated at specific power outputs and wavelengths. There's a men's version that uses higher intensity light because male skin is measurably thicker and requires greater penetration. On frequency, this isn't a nightly ritual. 2 to 3 times per week is the sweet spot. Red light therapy works by triggering a cellular stress response that stimulates collagen production and tissue repair. And like exercise, that process needs recovery time between sessions to do its work. Used consistently at that cadence, the clinical evidence shows meaningful improvements in skin firmness and a reduction in fine lines and wrinkles over time. Not overnight and not dramatically, but measurably and noticeably, and with a mechanism that actually makes biological sense. The sleep connection? It's indirect but real. Red light in the evening doesn't suppress melatonin the way blue light does. In fact, a 2025 clinical study found that while blue light maintained melatonin suppression throughout a 3-hour evening exposure, red light allowed melatonin to rebound to measurably higher levels after just 2 hours. So using a red light device as part of an evening wind-down routine is doing double duty: skin recovery and circadian support. This isn't a sleep product, let's be clear about that. It's a skin and cellular recovery tool that happens to be circadian friendly. If you're already doing the fundamentals, it's a legitimate upgrade. And it's the only thing on this list that makes you look better while you sleep. So there it is, 9 products, varying levels of evidence, and one common thread: none of them work in isolation. Magnesium won't save you if you're drinking 3 beers and staring at your phone until midnight. The Oura Ring is just an expensive guilt trip if you ignore what it's telling you. And the PEMF mat, as much as I've come to appreciate it, is firmly in the category of margin gains. You don't get margin gains until you've handled the fundamentals. The order I'd suggest, if you're starting from scratch, get your magnesium dialed in first. It's cheap, the evidence is solid, and the impact is quick for most people. Then clean the air in the room where you sleep. The Coway is about $200 and runs quietly enough that you won't notice it until you notice it. Then get something to track your sleep or your recovery. The Oura and the Morpheus are the best consumer options I've found. Once you can see your nightly data for an extended period, you'll know what to fix next. Everything else on this list is a force multiplier on top of that foundation. This isn't a shopping list, it's a diagnostic framework. Sleep is a system with inputs, outputs, and feedback loops. And once you start reading the data, you can't unread it. Your overnight heart rate data is a feedback loop. Your HRV score is a feedback loop. The question you're always asking is, what did I do yesterday that made last night better or worse? Answer that question consistently, and you won't need anyone to tell you what products to buy. You'll know. If this was useful, subscribe and share it with someone who's been sneaking off to take naps in a bookstore or in their car. They need this more than they know.